Well. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome. I appreciate y'all being here. It's Happy Friday to you. That's what it is. It's Happy Friday. That's what we're rocking and rolling to. Looking forward to it. Hopefully you are as well. And we're live on all of our formats now, and I appreciate you guys being here. Truly do. In just a moment, we're going to put sub chat only on TikTok in a moment. But right now, we're going to first give you all the details, which is very, very important before we get into the presentation. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Adam. Folks, I want you to go to our website. These are our sponsors. And for those of you on TikTok, you got to chat a little bit with Mr. Producer behind the scene. Go to KGRADB. So right now we're on KGRADB radio. Thank you. So go to KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. Make sure you put Bishop as your promo code. You're going to get 30% off of your subscription. So guys, don't forget that. Seriously, it's a great website. and if you put, again, Bishop as your promo code, KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. Put that Bishop as your promo code. All right. Make sure you get that discount. If you want to go to my website, that's simple, bishopjameslong, LONG.com. bishopjameslong, LONG.com. All right. So, guys, I'm in the middle of an introduction, so I can't really answer questions at the moment. So, again, bishopjameslong, LONG.com. And then if you want to go to the church's website, that's simple too, usocc.org. So, usocc.org. Let me give you a heads up on the schedule for those who don't know. So, tonight is Paranormal Friday night. This is the one night of the week. Regardless of what the trolls say, believe it or not, all my shows are not paranormal related. Actually, only Friday is. The rest of the time, it's Bible study and night prayer. And then, of course, open mic on Saturday. So if you want to join us tomorrow, we have open mic, or, we chat, tell jokes, bring on the moderators on TikTok. We chat for a while. And then on Sundays and Wednesdays is our Bible studies at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then night prayer is Monday through Friday at, of course, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's KGRADB. Thank you. So KGRADB and .com. But they have some really fantastic shows that air on that platform. Make sure you head on over there, because this show airs there as well. And very, very proud to announce that, from my understanding, that we are the number one show on paranormal related. So that makes me, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. And I appreciate all you guys being here and supporting the platform. Been here for, done the Sacred Division for a long time. That is the name of the show. The show is the Sacred Division. So started over 20 years ago. So, okay. So in just a moment, again, I'm going to put sub chat only on TikTok, because we just don't want to deal with the trolls. We're adults, and we just have really no patience for that nonsense. Tonight, we're going to have a very interesting conversation. This conversation is going to be one that I think, people always talk to me about this. Well, thank you, Terry. Possession. And one thing that it's very important as an exorcist, but as it's clergy in general, it's very important that I'm able to have ecumenical dialogues, with individuals, perhaps of different denominations, because this is not a competition. I'm not competing against other clergy. This should be a collaboration. And one thing that I've always tried to do is reach out to other people of other denominations, Lutherans, Episcopalians, non-denominational, Methodists, and just ask them, from their perspective, have they worked demonic cases? What happened? What worked for them? What did not work for them? And just get their perspective. That's very important. I think we have this elitism sometimes attitude that if someone doesn't believe in what we believe, then they're not in the right faith. Well, that's just incorrect. That's preposterous. So tonight we're going to talk about obviously a case, possession cases. I'm going to give you a heads up. Obviously, some of these cases might be a little intense. So I don't know necessarily if they're appropriate for, kids. Certainly, I wouldn't think that they would be. There's a big difference between, what you see on television or on the big screen and what you see now, because that's just what you see in real life, in real possession cases. Yeah, but guys, here's the deal. I answer questions all the time, but on Fridays, for those of you who are new, what we do is we do a lecture, a presentation, because there are some people that just go online and they just chat with people, and that's fine. That's their thing. When I go online, I want to teach. I want to share the knowledge that I have, not only that I have, but also if we have special guests, that they can also teach about their perspective as well. So I remember Monday through Friday, we have night prayer, Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. And I'm usually on an hour to an hour and a half later after that, answering questions every Monday through Friday, including on Wednesday and Sundays. So we do Q&As a lot. For those of you who are brand new here, a whole lot. So later on, we will open it up for everybody for question and answers, and then we'll kind of get into that. So that's how we operate. So if you have questions, if you're like me, you need to write them down. Otherwise, you'll forget. So just write them down, and then before our special guest logs off, then we'll go into the Q&A, and then we'll kind of entertain the questions. But for right now, we're going to go sub-chat only on TikTok because the trolls are beginning to come in. So now the trolls can take the exit. All right, so now sub-chat is on, and that's how we're going to work. And we'll open the chat up a little bit later on. The special guest today is a good friend of mine. He's been on the presentation for quite some time, quite a few times, actually, and we love having him here. So Willie Windwalker Gibson, he is a shaman. And actually, I would define Willie as a renowned shaman, spiritual healer, author, highly respected for his work in bridging traditional Native American spiritual practices with modern holistic healing techniques. He was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. And Willie carries the wisdom and ceremonial traditions of his Native American and Cherokee heritage, which I share with him. My grandparents were Cherokee. His unique insights and abilities as a shaman have made him a sought-after guide for those seeking spiritual clarity and healing. So Willie began experiencing spiritual visions and encounters at a very early age, leading him on a lifelong journey to embrace and explore his innate abilities. So over the years, he has honed his skills in various shamanic practices, including meditation, energy healing, spiritual counseling, with a particular focus on connecting individuals to their ancestral spirits and guiding them towards balance and harmony in their lives. Willie is a versatile and engaging speaker. For those of you who have heard Willie before, he's appeared on numerous radio and television programs, sharing his profound knowledge on spiritual realms and enlightening listeners with stories of angelic beings and powerful healing experiences. His approachable style, which he is, and deep understanding of both earthly and spiritual worlds have, I think, resonated with audiences around the globe. In addition to his healing practice, Willie is an accomplished author. He has written 2 books that capture his vast experiences and insights, aiming to inspire and empower others on their spiritual journey. Now, his writings explore a variety of topics like shamanic rituals, sacred connections with the nature, encounter with angelic and spiritual entities. And through his work, Willie is dedicated to fostering a deeper understanding of spirituality, cross-cultural connection, which we need more in this world, and personal transformation. So he has performed exorcisms, and Willie has been in the paranormal field for a long time. So if you are in the paranormal field and you are trying to learn it, you need to learn from, if you will, the OGs. And certainly Willie is one of those OGs within the paranormal community. And it was interesting because the other day I was called an OG and I didn't know how to handle that one. But nonetheless, let's bring on Willie Windwalker Gibson. Hello there, Willie Windwalker Gibson.
Hey, James. How are you?
I'm doing good. I appreciate your willingness to stop by and say howdy to us.
Sure, anytime, James.
So what's been going on with you guys? I know that the the ailments, the health ailments have been kind of a pain in the road. But how have things been going?
Well, except for the health issues, we're doing pretty good. We're hanging in there, and I'm starting to come back a little bit. I've been working on a book, and I'm hoping to get that out soon. And I've been talking to a few people, producers, and things like that. So hopefully things will start looking better here in the near future.
So now, what's your next book going to be about?
It's shaman adventures, the shamanic adventures that I've had over the years. I've got quite a few stories in there that I've experienced, and I talk about angels, I talk about ETs, I talk about everything.
For those of you who don't know, Willie has a profound, if you will, history with the paranormal, and of course working cases. And you can pretty much mention, I think, honestly, any topic within the paranormal, and Willie has had some type of case that is related to that, because he's been in the paranormal for so long. Willie, you said last time how long you were in the paranormal field?
60 years.
So needless to say, Willie's been around for a while. Folks, we're talking 6 decades. 6 decades. And I thought I was doing pretty good. My first experience was Waverly Hills 35 years ago. So 6 decades, guys. That's a long time. And that's a lot of experience, good and bad. Tonight, folks, we're going to talk about a topic that many people like to always ask about, which I understand, and that's possession. So I'm going to give you the perspective from a clergy perspective, as far as a Catholic perspective. Well, Willie, by the way, for those of you who immediately want to scream on all hoot and all this, Willie is Christian. Actually, he and his wife, Shaman, are devout Christians. And so I think let's not jump into immediate thoughts of, Native American, it's pagan. No, nonsense. My grandmother and my grandfather were both Native Americans, and they were very devout Christians. Yeah, there's such a misconception. It's terrible, quite honestly, that people think that just because you're Native American that you don't believe in Christ. That's simply not true. That's not true at all. And I think that's stereotyping, which should not be done. So Willie is a pretty devout Christian. But tonight we're going to talk about a serious topic, and that is possession. And I'm going to talk about some of my cases, and Willie's going to talk about some of his. Again, as I mentioned in the monologue in the beginning, that this may not be suited for children. I am going to play a couple sound bites that I've played before. But I think if people can actually hear it, they get a different perspective on what it sounds like. There is going to be a soundbite that I'm going to play for a case that I had that the family gave me permission to play. And so I played this before once. It's very rare that I ever play it. But thank you, the Jacks. So let's get into this comment. Let me ask you this, Willie. And before we get into the lecture, if you will, Willie, do you charge for performing an exorcism?
No.
Have you ever charged for performing one?
No. James, I look at it this way. People that have to have that done is in serious trouble. And if you're working with God, and he's not going to want you to ask for money to do something like that. It's just not right. And I've never done that, and a lot of my exorcisms is this on the spot. I mean, people don't call me like they do you and say, "Hey, Willie, we think we have an exorcism. We think we have a demonic possession here. We need you to come over." Or somebody calls me and says, "I think I'm possessed." That's way, far in between. Most of mine, I've actually walked into situations where I thought I was just going into a regular investigation and wound up having to do, fight my way out with an exorcism and a deliverance.
Yeah, and so let me get into this very quickly. when someone requires, and this is our requirement. So when someone believes that their family member, perhaps, or maybe even that they're possessed. So what our process is, well, let's do you first. So what is your process? So someone asks you, okay, they come to you and they say, all right, Willie, we believe our loved one is possessed. Have you ever had a call where someone, look, you need to come over here. Our loved one is possessed, and we need you to perform an exorcism or a shamanic ritual, whatever it is that you do. What is your process? What do you do?
James, I have two things. I have a shamanic way and a Christian way.
Okay.
Now, I'll get calls from Native Americans that want a shaman, and I'll get calls from people that want a minister, a pastor, which I am ordained. I've been a Pentecostal minister for years because I was brought up in a Pentecostal family. My dad was a lay minister, and I had two uncles that were Pentecostal. So people don't realize I'm just brought up in the church. I went to church on Sunday, and after we went to church, I'd sit there and watch Oral Roberts with Dad, and all that kind of stuff. So I was brought up really Christian. And usually when somebody calls me and says, I think I've got a possession going on, I have to be very, very careful. I don't have the people that you have when you go. I mean, you've told people that when you do an exorcism, you have medical people ready and you have the person checked out for mental stuff. So usually when I do, I don't have all that with me. You are the one that I call when we first got together and say, hey, James, what do you think about this? And you could tell people that because I've had you on speed dial for 20 years. So, I go ahead and I take the call, and I have to be very careful when I do this. So I go to the place, and I'll first thing I do when I drive up, I look at the area, see what kind of area I'm in and how the vibes are. I've told you this many times. I've walked up to a house and where the place looked like the monsters. Everything is dead. The ground is dead, and the trees are dead. And I walk up and peck on the door, and when they open the door, I know, when that energy hits me, I know what's going on. But when I do that, sometimes that energy doesn't hit me, then I have to be on my own guard because I don't know if I'm dealing with a mental person or what. So I'll go in and I'll feel my way around the house and around and look and see what's there. If the people do they have any kind of religious artifacts on the walls? Do they have crosses or anything like that? Or is the place dark, and they, things like that. And then I sit down and talk to the person that I'm there for. A lot of times when I talk to them, I can sense that there's really nothing there, but there is a medical problem. The person might have bipolar or something like that, and when I feel that, I usually tell that person what's going on, and I tell the parents or the friend or the spouse or whatever's going on, and a lot of times I find out that this person has been on medicine and gone off their medicine and things like that, and sometimes I'll walk around the house. They say, well, I hear things and I see figures and stuff like that, and I'll feel my way around, and I won't feel nothing. And they say, well, we hear pounding on the walls and things like that. But, sometimes it's probably stuff like plumbing and stuff like that. So I have to use my own energy when I go into something like that. Now, I've debunked a lot of this stuff, and I've called you about a few of those cases, too. And you've gave me advice on what to do. But I usually just use my own energy when I go into a situation.
So how did you discover your calling to become a shaman with a focus as well, of course, on the demonic, on exorcisms? Did you always know that you always called to serve in this type of ministry?
Well, James, I started when I was 10 years old, and my dad knew things before I did because he's Native American, and he would do things. And I could, at the age of 10, I could hear things and I could see things, and I would tell him about them, but he would tell me just to be, don't tell anybody, don't you just work with me, and I'll tell you what's going on. And he would do stuff like, I've told you this before, and I've told the audience before. He would take me to homes and take me through, and people laying there in coffins, and for me to get used to death and all that. And a lot of times I would look around and, I would see the person laying in the coffin standing there in a corner someplace until they're in sacred ground. They hang around. So I had to be taught that. And I really just let it go. I thought it was just something that I had to live with, being able to see and hear spirits, because I didn't set out to be a shaman. I went through grade school and all that, and I had my interests, and I really wanted to be a police officer. So when I had the chance to do that, I became a police officer, and when I was sworn in, I was sworn in as a peace officer for the state, and I was assigned to Fairgrounds Police Force, and they, beside the I did not know this, but there was that used to be a Native American burial ground there. So I would be out in my cruiser, cruising around the park and things. And one night, it was raining, and there's kind of a misty type of rain. And I was sitting there in my cruiser, and I see this figure start walking towards my car. So when you're a police officer out by yourself, you don't allow nobody to get very close to your vehicle when you're alone like that. So I hit my lights and put my lights on this person, and I could see I was making, as he walked toward me, it turned out it was an Indian, and I challenged him, and he kept walking and finally got within, 20 feet of the car, and he stopped, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he didn't really open his mouth to talk to me, but I knew what he was saying, like telepathy. He says, "I belong here," and then he disappeared.
Oh.
And then, okay, well, I'm out by myself, and I saw this, and I knew I saw a ghost because I've seen ghosts before, so I just let it go. Well, the next night, he appeared again along about the same time. This time, I asked him who he was, and he told me his name was Singing Fox, and he belonged there. And then he asked me, you're Indian, are you not? I said, yes. And he said, what is your Indian name? I said, I don't have one. He said, from this day forward, your wind walks with the spirits. And after that, James, he would appear to me at different parts, some at nighttime. I would have different times to be there because I had different shifts, and whatever shift I was on, he showed up. Well, one day I was on, on patrol, and I was driving my car, and I seen this guy standing in the middle of the park there. And then I got out and I asked him, I told him to halt. What are you doing here? Because you're trespassing. Well, he went to grab something out of his waist, and I took off after him because I thought he had a gun.
You can't say that. Remember, you can't say that word. His weapon.
He went into his belt for something, and I just took off running after him because I seen a reflection. And I was running, and he was running, and we was running kind of like in the forest, and he jumped over this log, and I jumped over the log too. But when I hit the ground, I went straight down into a hole, and I was just hanging there by a 2x4. But I didn't know it was an outside toilet that they had dug up and left the hole there, and I'm there sinking in mud and crap and all this kind of stuff, and I thought I was going to die. So I had my radio with me, and I called for help, and they were sending backup, but I thought I was going to die. And all of a sudden I felt this hand grab me, and I looked up, and it was this Indian, and he says, and he said, he looked at me, he says, you're going to be a shaman one day. You're going to be a medicine man one day. And then when my backup got there and pulled me out of the sinkhole, they didn't see what I saw. He was invisible to them, but I could see him. And that's when I knew back in 1980 that where my destiny was. I was told then I was going to be a shaman, but it took a few years. But I finally came around and turned my badge in and went into training full time, it becomes shaman.
So let me, first of all, how do you define, from your perspective, since we're talking about demons in possession, how do you define a demon within your spiritual practice?
Well, we call them demons or dark spirits in the Native American lore. That's how we do it. I mean, like I said, James, all this with Native American shamans has to do with the energy, whatever the entity puts out. Well, we can feel it, and that's how we know as shamans.
For those of you joining, I'm Bishop Long, and we're talking to our buddy Willie Windwalker Gibson, who is a shaman. He is a Christian, and he's been in the paranormal field for 6 decades, for quite some time. And he's talking about just his experience working demonic cases and deliverances. So can you share an instance where an exorcism had an unexpectedly positive outcome? Because I know we're going to get into the negative stuff in a moment. But can you share a time where an exorcism or deliverance that you did had an unexpectedly positive outcome, whatever that might be?
This happened probably, James, 20 years ago, just before we met. I had my own little groups, and we would meet like every Saturday night, and I would do teaching, and we would do spiritual work and things like that, and I would be teaching. A lot of my students were women, because they got what I was trying to teach them right off. But the men that I taught, if they don't catch on to it within a day or two, within a class or two, they don't make it. It's basically they're there for fun and entertainment, and they want to see a ghost and all this kind of stuff, and they go by the wayside. Well, I had these 2 special students. They were female, and they were best friends, and they would go and do investigations without me. I would go out on investigation with them every so often, but they would go do investigations without me. And they told they come back one time, and they were looking at me, and they looked strange. They didn't look right at all. And I said, where have you 2 been? So we went out on an investigation last night at this antique shop, and when we came out, we didn't feel. I mean, we just didn't feel right. And I looked at them, and I knew, and I could look in their eyes, and I see there weren't. Their energy was different. So, in this one case, I knew that they had a possession going on. They picked up something in that shop, because they said that when they went in there, they felt the energy was bad and dark and all that kind of stuff. So I set them down, James, and this is the truth. I set them side by side, and I looked at them, and I started doing some prayers, and also did some Native American stuff, and they started rustling around and rocking back and forth, and both of them at the same time. So I had a double possession going on.
Wow.
Okay. And the thing is, James, and you can testify to this. There's transitional possession. The entity this entity was going back and forth. One would be possessed, and then she'd be okay, and the other would go into fits and stuff like that. So I went on ahead and did a deliverance on them, and it was rough, because whatever this entity was very, very strong. So I went on ahead and started working on them. And do you know, James, this thing was so strong, and it was going back and forth. They actually tried to hurt each other. This thing wanted them to fight and hurt each other. One would be possessed, and then it would jump on the other woman, and the other woman would be possessed, and it was bouncing back and forth. And finally, I got it under control and got it out of them. And it was that, it took, I guess, a good 5-6 hours. I was working back and forth, and Shaman was working with me. And finally, we got the thing out, and it was gone. And do you know, James, they didn't remember anything that happened, and they tried to kill each other. That was one time that I had a transitional possession going on between 2 different people.
And for those of you who are just joining us, so I'm Bishop Long. Again, we're talking to Willie Windwalker Gibson. He's a shaman. I do have subscriber chat only on for TikTok because of the trolls. We're not interested in engaging with trolls. But later on, we'll open it up for everybody so that we can, open up to the questions that you guys might have for Willie or myself. So when you're talking about exorcisms, Willie, from not only a shamanic perspective, but also just as a Christian clergy member, what are some common misconceptions about exorcisms that you've encountered that people always think happens that you would like to maybe educate the people on and about misconceptions?
Well, people go by what they see on TV, James, and in the movies, and The Exorcist, and their head spinning around and stuff like that. But actually, if you're going through that, just you can see the actual pain these people are going through, and the distortion they're going through, and their eyes change and all that, and people think that, and this was which gets me about these shows on TV. They go looking for demons and, hey, hit me, slap me, possess me, you're no good and all this kind of stuff. And they don't realize, James, what they're asking for, because even if it don't happen then, it can happen later. And the misconception is, they think once a person's possessed, I mean, they can't come out of it and live a normal life, and then, a few months or a year later, go back into it. They don't realize this. The entity follows people around.
Yeah. And let me ask you then, what criteria, as a shaman, do you use to determine if someone is truly possessed versus someone who is either faking it or perhaps maybe mental illness? So is there a criteria? Is there a checklist that you look for?
Yeah, I do. I usually look, I feel the energy. And usually I can, well, being an exorcist, James, you use certain things to test people. Well, we do the same thing, and it's usually along the same lines, and we use, holy things and things of that nature. And like I said, there's things we use to test people, and usually 50-50 that you come across with somebody that's just ill, or somebody that's trying to play you, or just wants to play a game with you or something like that. But once I feel that out, and I debunk them, or I bring it, I tell them they're full of crap. Then you can see they just change and they start laughing, and they're not real, because usually when I walk into a situation, I think I'm gonna, and I could feel that energy. Usually I know before I even walk into an area, before I even walk into a building. It's just different for a shaman, because a shaman can feel this before anything happens.
So how do you involve nature or nature elements in your deliverance or your ritual exorcisms?
Okay. A lot of times I use salt barrier or circle. I do use blessed water. I do use smoke, and a lot of those. And I do use sometimes, very, very seldom, but sometimes I have actually used crystals to make a circle and put the person in it. So I use a lot of stuff. I use earth, wind, fire, and water, and it works pretty good.
And this is, again, folks, for those of you who are, it's very important to always get different perspectives. And I think that's important. We don't necessarily always have to agree with one another, but it is important to learn and to learn from another perspective, because if we don't, then we just put ourselves in this little bubble and say, no, it's my way or that's it. And I disagree with that. I think it's really crucial for us to have a communication, to chat, and to learn from each other, because we all can share that. Yeah, and it does. Someone's asking on Messenger. In Scripture, incense is used quite often, actually, but just a few on the top of my head. There's Exodus chapter 30, verse 7 through 8. That's Aaron. Aaron burnt fragrance of incense on the altar. There's Psalm 141, Revelation chapter 8. I mean, these are just a few. It's even in Isaiah. So we see incense, blessed incense and holy water and oil. These are called sacramentals. Sacramentals are items that are blessed. And when you bless these items and you present them to the demonic, there is an extreme aversion to this, to those items. And so we use the sacramentals of the church to break the demon's will. It's a constant barrage of attacks. And so we use these sacramentals during the rite, whether it be the minor rite of exorcism or the solemn rite. So let me ask you, I probably know the answer. Do you perceive the spirits during an exorcism? For example, if it is demonic, and when you're praying the prayer of deliverance over someone, has a demon ever manifested before you to try to intimidate you? And if so, tell us about that.
Well, there was one time, James, I had the salt circle going, and I usually, if I'm going to get into something really deep, and the thing is really strong, I'll use a salt circle and I'll get into it as a barrier. And usually when I start doing my prayers and things like that, I have seen things like smoke appear that turned into like a figure. I have the smells are something wild. Like if you can imagine rotten hamburger that's been out in the sun for a week, that's probably getting close to the smell, and sulfur and things like that. But I have actually seen things manifest like in smoke, and we'll get into a story here in a minute, James. We all know when you do an exorcism, you don't go out and you don't tell anybody about it. You don't, get on the radio and say, hey, so-and-so, this is what I did to this person, and they lived here and all that kind of stuff. It's secret. And, a few months back, what happened to me, and I gave you permission to use what happened in your teachings or on TV or whatever you want to do, because I feel that people need to understand what goes on with the actual victim. I call them a victim, and the person that's doing the exorcism and what they're going through. So for those of you who don't know, Willie had a demonic attachment to him, and it was attacking Willie, and it was very, very intense. And Willie had called, for those of you who weren't here at the last show, he had contacted me and said, I need you to come over to my house. I need you to bless the house. But when I got there, there was something. I knew without question when I got there, this was not going to be just a blessing. It was just a heavy oppression, very, very heavy oppression. It just the only way to describe it. Imagine walking into a forest, and it's dark, and it's foggy, and it's humid. But you feel like there's thousands of eyes watching you, predatory eyes. It's that type of real heaviness. That's the only way that I could possibly describe it. And I certainly felt that when I was at your house the other day. Well, like I was telling the audience, James, you don't. When you go out and do your exorcisms, you don't go and talk about it, and all you can do is say, well, I've done 25 exorcisms, but you don't talk about them. And the reason you do that is because it's before the privacy of the person. Right. But this has happened to me, and since we've been in this field so long, this gives you something that you can take out and tell people what happened, and this really happened, and you can contact him and he'll tell you about it and whatever. You can use it in teaching, whatever he wants to do. But yes, I knew something was going on with Shaman and me, because this thing had been attacking us. I dropped my guard because Shaman's been sick for a long time. And Shaman is his wife. Finally, it got to a point where it got really dangerous. Shaman lost a leg and she broke a hip, and I could feel myself under attack because I I had been drained so much that even my spiritual barriers was drained. Whatever, and this thing took advantage. It saw what I was, and I could not defend myself the right way. So I knew something was up, and I contacted James, told him what was going on. He came, and he could tell you, I think he knew walking up to the house what was going on, because I met him at the door, and I was watching him walk up the street, and all of a sudden I started getting mad, and I invited this man to my house for help, and I started getting mad, and I said, uh-oh, something's going on. So he got to the door, and he walked in the door, and all of a sudden he stopped, and and how are you, Willie? How are you, come on, and he had us go and sit down in the living room, and he was looking at me, and we were talking for a little bit. He said, hey, and he gave me some medals and crucifixes to hold, and all of a sudden, when I took a hold of it, and I felt that vibration, like, man, something, this is so powerful that, I want to kill him, and James started, he started doing the right, and he did the oil, and he did the holy water, and he put the medallions around our necks, and the medallion automatically got hot. I said to myself, okay, this is starting to work. And then he started doing prayers, and he told us to close our eyes. We started doing prayers, and hell broke loose. It was almost like I was in another dimension. I saw red. I saw an upside down crucifix. I saw the image of God, Jesus, and he was laughing. I mean, laughing. The image of Jesus that you would see on The Greatest Story Ever Told. In that movie. That's the image I got, and it just the more James, I could hear James doing something, but he got muffled and muffled and muffled. It's like somebody talking in another room, and you're trying to hear what they're saying. I knew he was saying something, but I just, what? And all of a sudden, I mean, this voice. I had the crucifix in my hand, because I had the medallion around my neck, crucifix was in my hand. James was doing prayers, and the crucifix got hot, and I heard a voice. Take this and wrap it around his throat, and you kill him. Kill him now. Stop him. And then I could hear drums. I didn't tell James. I hear drums, Native American drums, and I knew that my guides were getting involved and trying to block this off. And finally, whatever James did to finalize this stuff, I thought I was going to come out of the chair. I felt like I was getting lighter, but I came down, and I just slowly opened up my eyes. James was standing there and looking at me, and I knew I was okay then.
Yeah, you went into transient possession. And I'm not going to go into details of how I knew that, but there were clear signs. I knew you were not there. And it happens quite often when someone is under the stage of possession. The demonic will cause the senses to go in sensory overload, and many times they will try to cause the individual not to be able to hear the prayers. So it almost sounds like an echo, like I'm kind of like I'm slowly moving away from, like I'm right next to you, and then as the possession takes place, then it sounds like I'm moving further and further and further away. And then before you know it, now I'm in another room, and you can't even hear me say anything. Or if you could hear my voice, you can barely even hear the words. And this is when you use the sacramentals of the church. And so the sacramentals of the church is when you battle the evil. And Willie, I had seen you fight, and I was seeing you, but you were rocking back and forth, and to the point where it was pretty aggressive. And I knew when you'd grab the rosary and it was pretty aggressive, I knew what was going on then. And several times, even one of your hands began to shake, especially as it held the crucifix. And I knew that was, that there were some things that you were struggling with. But it was, it was one of those moments that I think it's a reminder for everybody when you're doing this type of ministry that it's really dangerous stuff. And demons will wait. They will anticipate the most opportune time. And with Willie and his wife, Shaman, have had so many health issues, one after the other. I mean, bills and medical bills and health. It was just constant. It was a barrage of attacks. This is the type, when I talk about oppression, that's what it looks like. Oppression is when demons will constantly attack financial, emotional, intellectual, everything. It's a barrage. It doesn't stop. It is just constant. And that's breaking the person's will. And I think quite honestly, with your faith, and I think your ancestral faith and your faith in Christ, the sacramentals of the church, Shaman there praying, me there praying, I think that's how we were able to get you out of that situation. Because you're in pretty deep.
I really think if I let this go on another month, that thing would have probably killed me, or I would have killed Shaman.
Yeah, no question. It was getting deep. It was, and by the way, we say unalive. You have to say unalive on TikTok.
Okay.
So let me ask you: have you ever, when you perform a deliverance? And again, we'll open the chat in just a second for those of you on TikTok. I do have sub chat only on for now, but I'll open it up in a moment for everybody so you guys can ask questions. Willie is a shaman. He's a deliverance minister. I've known Willie for many years. I consider him and his wife Shaman good friends, good people. Genuine, good people. Willie he's been in the field for over 60 years, and he's never charged. He's never charged once for a deliverance ministry, never. So he's one of those people that has given so much of his life to this ministry. And quite honestly, everybody thinks of the Warrens, and I knew Lorraine Warren, but to be very blunt, I think Willie Windwalker Gibson should absolutely be at that same level, if not more, because Willie has taken on some pretty heavy cases. And as you see,
well, James, people don't realize that I've been offered television series, and so have you, and we have been offered television series together, and we've turned them down because basically they wanted us to be phony. They wanted we got to offer one time for you and me to go to Hollywood to do a series, and we turned it down because you had your ministry and I had Shaman, and they just would not let us do this series here in Kentucky, and we just turned it down. And that was, they offered us some pretty good money to come out there and do a show, and we just turned it down flat.
Well, they wanted us to be actors, and that's not what we are. We're not. That's not who we are. Have you during an exorcism? Now, with the Christian rite, with the solemn rite of exorcism, I do not engage in conversation with the demonic at all. Matter of fact, in the solemn rite, it requires for us to silence the voice, and I'll explain that later. But have you, in your deliverance, have you ever had a situation where the demonic communicated with you, was speaking to you, was trying to tell you whatever it was trying to tell you? Have you ever had that? And was it lies? What did it try to break your will down or intellect? What was it doing?
James, I haven't been formally to seminary or anything like that, like you have. And I knew, when I go through this, not to pay attention to what this thing says, because, it cusses at you. It tells you stuff that nobody else should know about you. That tells me that, hey, I've really got a bad one here. I just don't pay any attention to them. I just go on and do my thing. I do my prayers. I do my the blessings and things, and I use my smoke, and I use the sacred waters. I'm going to come out and say I put a person in the blessed rings, because that way, if I can get them in there, I'm in there with them. But I will step out, leave them in there to just holler and go on and whatever, because I've got a barrier up and they can't come. Once I get them in that bliss ring, they're there until I get ready for them to come out.
And,
people won't believe this. With salt, I'll make a barrier, and I'll get the person in there, and I'll start my thing, and then you can see this thing come forward and start yelling, and I won't talk to them, and I won't look them in the eyes, and I just wear them down. It's almost like an interrogation, a police interrogation, and I've got them in the sweat box, and I'm there doing my thing, and they're hollering and going on and cussing, and then finally I'll step back into the ring and I'll finish it. And the way you usually finish yours is the same way we do ours. And once I get them in that sacred ring and get them trapped, they're not coming out unless I want them to.
Have you ever had a situation in exorcism where, and you've been doing in this ministry for 60 years, have you ever been in a situation where, number one, whether it be possession or a demonic entity that was present, have you ever had a case where you were legitimately terrified?
James, I'm going to be honest with you. All of them, I have been terrified, but I know I got the power of God with me, and I just keep on going. And the more I go, the more powerful I feel God's energy coming through me. But yeah, I'll bet, and people don't realize what they see on TV is not like the real thing. It's just not. And then you get, and then this thing tries to lull you in a false security type of situation, like, I'm okay now, but
right.
And this, you know that it's not right. You can feel it. And then same thing with shamans. I've worked with all types of clergy, from Buddhists to Catholics to Pentecostals. We work for the same person. We work for God, and we have to have that God. You have to know that God's with you. If you go in there and you play around, you think you're going to do an exorcism, and you've never done one of these before, and you've watched it on TV and you've read books about it. I'm telling you, people out there, I'm telling you, unless you've been trained and you read a book and you think you've read a book and you know everything, you've seen everything on TV, it's not the same. This thing will kill you.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever worked a case where you got involved and you're performing a deliverance, an exorcism, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm in over my head? Yeah, I have, James. But I said, God, you need to show me the way. Show me the way. Tell me what to do. And James will tell you. I've called him quite a few times. Say, hey, this is going on, that's going on, and James will tell me, what I need to do, what I don't need to do. But mostly, when I get into something, I don't have time to do it. I mean, I've got to do it right then. You just say, you can't put this thing on hold and walk away. Right.
I mean, you get tired, but you always go back and start over again. You just don't say, well, I'm going home today. I'm going home now, and I'll see you tomorrow. You can't do that.
So if there's somebody out there that's watching this now, and we'll open up the chat in just a second for everybody, if there's somebody out there that truly is being called in their heart, they truly are, they feel like God is calling them to serve, in the deliverance ministry, as an exorcist, a deliverance minister, because Lord knows we need more prayer warriors out there. We do. But we need people who are properly vetted and trained. But what advice would you give them? Because a lot of people ask me, they say, Bishop Long, I really have the desire. God has called me to do this. I want to do it. And then they ask me, and I give them my opinion. What advice would you give them if they truly feel that God is calling them to serve in this ministry?
You need to get with somebody that's got experience doing it, and it's the real thing. You have to learn by, you find you a teacher that's been in this for years and can tell you the right way. You can't, like I said, you can't read a book or watch a movie and think you're an exorcism. You've got to be put with a person. A person's got to teach you how to do it the right way. I had many teachers, many shamans that I've worked with, men and women, and I've even worked with shamans in spirit. And I've worked with other clergy, and I've learned from them, and they've learned from me. That's the only way you can do this.
All right, we're going to open up chat for everybody. Moderators, be aware. So the chat is open for everybody on TikTok. Behave. Otherwise, I'll put the chat right back on for sub chat only. So just be nice. Is there a particular place, a location that you've been to that perhaps maybe we are aware of that you feel that it is so dark that you would never go back there again? You just wouldn't do it.
I really don't like Bell Witch.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like the cave. You know, I've been there twice. I've been asked by 2 different television networks to go in there and do work. And I've done the work. And as you know, they made fun of it and like a a scary time. But when I go, they tell me to go do something, I'll do it. I'll clear a land, or I'll go in and I'll do an investigation, try to release spirits, things like that. And both times I was really let down, but I did my work. But I would say that the Bell Witch at Adams, Tennessee, was about the weirdest and the worst I've ever felt. You know, when you hit the town limits, you can feel it before you even get to the property.
I've never been there. I definitely am going to. I want to go to Bell Witch one day. Let me ask you. So Big Red is asking there on TikTok, what about portals? So Willie, if you go to a location that's known to have demonic, whether it be a house or location, how do you acknowledge that there is a portal, and then how do you close them?
Well, I've been to a couple of locations where I would do a walkthrough, and I would find an area that I knew were a portal. I went to a house one time, and the portal was downstairs in a giant mirror, and I closed it. What I do, you can do it. I usually use sage, and I'll go around the portal, and I'll do a prayer, and then I'll close it with sage, or I'll close it if I got some holy water. I'll close it that way.
Okay. Someone's asking a great question. They were asking about levitation. I have seen a form of levitation. The whole body wasn't levitating. It actually was the first case that I worked as the assistant. I wasn't the primary. I was the secondary. I was the assistant. And the person was laying down. I talked about this on the Eli Roth, the Legion of Exorcists show that I'm on. And the person was laying down. And in the middle of the right, it was like someone had put a string around the waist, and the person just went just like that. And you could hear the vertebrae. I thought the person had broke their back, but they just went. And it wasn't like they tried to do it. It was just they moved straight up like that. And so they were in a V shape, and their heads were down here, and the feet were down here, and they stayed just like this for a while, and then slowly they went down. But I'm not at a full body levitation, but I have seen that form of levitation. Have you ever had a case, Willie, where you have seen levitation?
It wasn't a case; it was shaman. One time, we lived out in another county, and we had a bottom apartment. We had a basement apartment, and I forget what case we were on, but we came home, and I was in the living room, and Shaman says, Willie, I'm going to go lay down. I am really tired. I said, okay. So about an hour later, I went in to check on Shaman, and Shaman was about 4 foot off the bed, floating in air. Wow. And I didn't holler or anything. I just went over to the bed, and I just kind of pushed her down on the bed, and I woke her up, and she said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "I think you was having a dream." She said, I really feel strange. But the next day I told her that when I went in, she was about 3 foot off the bed. So whatever we got into that one case when she brought back, I don't know if her energy was releasing or whatever, but I've seen shaman levitate off the bed.
Yeah, I really, when you're talking about levitation, it is ultimately all these things you see, guys, these are all parlor tricks. And that's what they are with the demonic. It is trying to show that in the physical realm, demonics can manipulate and control and to intimidate. So when you see a person levitate, the purpose of that is for the demonic to show you, I'm able to do this. Do you really want to mess with me? Do you really want to do this? And it's just a form of physical manifestation to try to intimidate. But these are parlor tricks. Go ahead, Willie.
that's how Shaman and I got together. She was having problems in her apartment. I was working in the hotel with her, and she was on the cleaning crew, and I was running security. And I would come. Sometimes I would fall asleep in the lobby, and she would wake me up and said, "Well, be careful now. You're falling asleep." But she said, "Why are you falling asleep so much?" I said, "I've been going to school." She said, "Going to school?" See, I was in training then too, and I had been with my teacher, and I was tired, and I went, I fell asleep in the lobby. She said, and I told her what I was doing, and she said, would you come over to my apartment? Something's going on. And what was going on over there, she had a demonic situation going on over there that I had to take care of. And luckily I had my teacher with me and one of the students, and they were telling me what to do about that. So I had started messing with that type of work right about then. That's how she and I were brought together, and we started dating, and we eventually got married. And then her and me would go out. We were the Native American Ed and Lorraine Warren type people. We would go out and do these things and do investigations, and evidently, I didn't know at the time. Well, one of these things followed us home, and it was playing with me. And I think down through the years, James, I've always had on me, and it just got to a head when you had to step in and take care of business.
If trolls, go away. We're not entertaining you. Go away. Catholics are Christians. What are Christians? People who believe Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior. Anyway, sorry, I was interrupted by a troll. Typical. I have a question now. How do you close the portals then? So when you are able to notice that there's a portal. But see, the portal, a lot of people think, guys, that portals are some magical thing. It's not. For example, this pen can be a portal. So I could open a portal think of it like this. You're using this to communicate with the spirit world. So I can that's opening a portal. That's opening a line of communication, if you will. So you open that portal, and this is the object. How do you, put it on a table. Okay, if there's a spirit, can you please move this pen? Can you knock it away? Whatever it might be. You have opened a portal. You've opened a line of communication. So Willie, how do you close portals?
Well, like I said, James, when I find them, I'll usually use sage. I will use holy water, and I will do a blessing and ask God to close this portal. And it usually goes away. But when I do this, when I close one, I'll go through the house, and I will do closets. I will do the TV. I will do all the mirrors, anything that can open up and bring something into a house. I was in a house one time that had so many mirrors in it, James. I swear, I went on ahead and closed. Although it was a portal waiting to happen, I would say, and I would do the closings of everything, including the TV sets. And people say, they can come through the TV. Yeah, a portal can be opened in the TV. Yeah. Guys, seriously, this is stuff. Again, Willie and I are here to teach you what we know, what we've experienced. Thank you. And if you're here, look, TikTok, if you're here to insult my faith, we're just going to put sub chat only on. Just behave. James, I actually had a portal in a picture.
Sorry, I'm dealing with trolls. They just cannot behave. Willie, I have never seen the hate that exists today. I do not understand it. The trolls can't leave people alone. Let me explain something. Do you not understand that when you troll others, that is a form of demonic activity? Please understand this. You are being influenced by the demonic, because if you are filled with the Holy Spirit, you don't troll others. You leave people alone, because the Holy Spirit will say that is not appropriate. Don't use your words for hate. So when you go around and say nasty, horrible things, do you realize you're being influenced by the demonic? Because it's called ordinary demonic activity. So you need to wise up. Wise up. Go ahead, Willie.
I actually had a portal in a picture in a person's house, and I went in his house and I looked at this picture, and I could see the energy around it. It was a portal from a picture that was taken many years ago, and I actually had to close the energy off that picture. And people don't realize that it can happen.
Yeah. So let me ask you now, have you ever come across a person that was possessed or that needed deliverance where the demonic said that they were Lucifer, that they were Satan?
People don't realize, James, if you're dealing with a real demon, they won't tell you its name, and if they do, it's a punk spirit. They won't give you their name. I've had a lot of spirits.
Well, in the solemn rite, we require it. But of course, what Willie's saying is, in the beginning, they will never, ever say that. But during the solemn rite, we continue, and you weaken the intellect and the will of the demon to the point where it is so weakened that either one, it will surrender its name, or two, it will leave. Now, what Willie is saying is they'll leave.
Both happen.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But if you go in there and this spirit says, "Well, I'm Lucifer, or I'm this and that," if you know your demon names, I'm such, and I'll stand there and I'll laugh, and I say, "No, you're not. Yeah. You're just a punk spirit. You're weak. You need to go now." And I said, "You want to know strength, and you want to know power? Find out what I'm going to do to you now." And it usually leaves. Yeah, I've done that where it released its name, and it's also I've had them where they leave. And James, in my teachings, I usually leave when I do the Native American spirit thing. I will leave a window open, or I will leave a door open so where it can leave. And usually I've had actually a wind come into a room, and you can feel this thing go out the door.
Yeah. No. Sometimes I command its name, but many times it leaves prior to that, because once it gives you and surrenders its name, it knows that judgment is there. So many times it will leave prior to that occurring. So do you believe, from your perspective, and for those of you just joining us, I'm talking to our friend Willie Windwalker Gibson. And then after Willie hangs up, then I'll answer some of your questions that we didn't get to, because there's so many people. And by the way, what many people don't know is because, my grandmother had passed away and my grandfather passed away many years ago, and they were both Native Americans. And I wanted to learn so much more from my Native American heritage. And I was really glad because Willie was teaching me classes on shamanic classes, and I thought that was and I absolutely want to continue that, because it's important to learn my ancestral background, because that connection that I had with it unfortunately went away when my grandparents went away. So Willie, we'll have to definitely, I didn't want to bother you, obviously, because you guys were so busy with your health issues, but I absolutely want to pick that up again, because that's important.
We will.
That's important. Do you believe possession is on the rise, or demonic activity is on the rise?
James, what I've seen in the world just lately, yes, I do.
Yeah. Yeah. It just seems like the evil is just, I've never seen, Willie, we were in the paranormal field, guys, before social media was even a thing. And MySpace and Facebook and Twitter and all that other TikTok, none of that stuff existed when we were in the paranormal. 35 years ago was the first time that I investigated. I was in the paranormal 35 years ago. We didn't have any of that stuff. And it has evolved, obviously, social media, but I am deeply concerned with the amount of hate that is online, and people just displaying such vile behavior. And here's the problem, the deep problem that I see, Willie, is that it's almost, the hate has become so rampant that it has become the norm. And that's problematic. We are normalizing extremely abnormal behavior. And because it is so rampant, that it's like, well, of course, yeah, social media. I talked to someone the other day about the trolling. I'm like, well, yeah, it's just social media. And I'm thinking, are you listening to yourself? It's become like, yeah, it happens. So we're normalizing the extreme hatred that is occurring. And I find that to be incredibly problematic. And I assume you feel the same way. Have you noticed that the hate has increased 100-fold as the years have progressed with social media?
I have. You know, James, when we first got together, you know, I couldn't believe the stuff that was happening to you as far as people. I mean, they were really get down on you, and I've learned to deal with it because I've actually had people want to kill me. What I do, I had to be escorted. I had to be undead. They actually, you know, I had to. Shimon and me have actually been escorted out of places because people were going to do us harm, you know, and they had to, you know, sure we got away safely.
Let me ask you this question about, and then we'll probably disconnect here pretty soon. Let me ask you this, and then I'm going to stay on with you guys and answering questions, unless you want to stay with us. It's entirely up to you. But psychic and mediumships. So Willie is a psychic medium. Willie is legitimately talented. I have tested Willie, and I can tell you he is the real deal. He's not a fraud. There's a lot of people out there who claim they're psychic. They're as psychic as my dog. I don't have a dog. Maybe rest in peace. But there's a lot of people who claim to be this. Willie is this. He has been tested and tested over and over again. Networks have tested him. I mean, he's passed the test more than enough. There's a lot of people that will, and people who will want to attack psychic mediums. I say, well, let's pump the brakes on this, because whether you like it or not, there are people that are gifted, whether you like it or not. There's people that are psychics. There are people that are mediums. Let me tell you this very quickly for those, because a lot of you have not heard this story before. I used to be a chaplain for a major metropolitan police department. And I've said this before. So before you guys immediately start throwing the Bible and scripture and attacking it anyway, the police asked me to be at a location where a family and the police were given a tip by a medium who told them where they could find the remains of their loved ones. This family was hardcore Christian. I live in the Bible Belt in Kentucky. I mean, they were hardcore, and they did not believe psychic mediums. It was evil. They were demons. They're working for the demons. I mean, they were not interested. And when I tell you they were hardcore, extreme, but they were there. And I was there with the family because the police wanted me to be there with the family to make sure they don't run on the scene, because in case there was any evidence. So a medium contacted the police and said that you're going to find the remains of their loved ones, and it gave them the information. I saw it. The police dug, and they were like 5 feet off from where the medium told the police where they could find the remains. And now look, people always say, well, that's the demons. The demons don't give you peace of mind. They take your peace of mind. And this family, who was extremely hardcore against psychic mediums, they're evil. Their entire life and perspective changed because they were able to have closure and bury their loved one properly. And that gave them a sense of closure and peace, knowing that they could actually have a proper burial. And their whole perspective on psychic mediumship completely shifted on that day, completely shifted, as did mine, because I've always been skeptical. And so people can say and go on and on and on and on about, oh, they're evil. Well, first of all, if you're going to attack psychic and mediums, then you need to understand what scripture meant. First, and again, I learned this in the Roman Catholic Church when I was studying for the seminary in graduate school. What would happen is they would have intermediaries with pagan gods. So if your loved one passed away and they had 15 gods, you would have to go to each intermediary and offer 5 shekels per god or whatever it was to appease that god. Because if you did not, then that god would raise your loved one up, necromancy, and punish them for eternity. So you would have to go to these intermediaries who have all these gods and say, okay, here's 5 shekels for each one. What was happening is Then your loved one would pass away a year later. You'd go to these intermediaries, and then they say, oh, no, we don't have 10 gods. Now we have 30. And 5 shekels is not enough. Now it's 10 shekels. It was fraud. That's what it was, blatant fraud. And so it was offering, it was shekels to these pagan gods. So that is what it was talking about. It had nothing to do with what Willie does or other people do who give closure. So Willie, how would you explain that to people, Willie? Because you're a Christian, you are a psychic medium. How would you explain that? Have you worked your psychic mediumship ability? Do you use your psychic mediumship ability when working demonic cases? So it's a big question. How do you defend it from a Christian perspective? And do you use your abilities when working demonic cases?
Yeah, I do. James, like I said, when I go into an area, I'll go ahead and scope it out psychically and use my energies and do it that way. People don't realize, and you can verify this, James. You and me were called to a house one time, and in this house, a pedophile used to live.
Okay.
And there was
you can't say that word. Can't say that word. Yep. Can't. TikTok has rules on everything. So a person who does bad things to kids, yes.
Okay. Well, you and me walked to the house,
yep.
and I saw this kid, and you saw the spirit, mm-hmm. and we walked outside, and we saw out and back an area that had nothing was growing, and it looked like a cemetery in the back. And you and me knew, and we told, we knew that there was probably several bodies out there buried, and you and me felt this and saw the spirit of the little girl that was mm-hmm. missing. And we tried to get the police, to
yep.
do radar and stuff like that. They wouldn't do it because, hey, we're mediums, and
yep.
They can't go by what we say. But behind the scenes, if they need us, I'm sure that I have worked cases. I have actually worked cases for Homeland Security, New York police departments. I've done cold cases for New York police, and and I don't go out and advertise that stuff, but I have done behind the scenes stuff for law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you and me, you were there.
Yep.
We met there, and we saw this stuff. You saw the little girl's
I
spirit,
did.
And we could not let. They would not let them come on private property. The person that owned the house then would not let them come on private property on say so that we saw that. So things backfire like that too. With law enforcement.
Yeah, that's and I didn't think anything of it. I just saw, but I remember I was upset about that because when you offer type of help and it's free help, it's like, okay, take the help, but no, they just wouldn't, because we live in the Bible Belt, and in the Bible Belt it's still not really accepted, and that's a shame, and that is a shame. I mean, if you're going to help, then people should accept it. So what advice would you give someone who believes that they have encountered a demonic entity in their home or in a location? What advice would you give them?
Well, James, we got the paranormal clergy and dominions out there. They have to call somebody and let them come do an investigation to where they can get evidence to where they can call in clergy.
And that's what you do. And now, do you have a few more minutes? You want to answer a few questions, or do you got to head on out?
Sure, I can just stick around a few minutes.
Okay, guys, if you have any questions that you would like Willie to answer, again, this is a golden opportunity. You have an individual who has 60 years of experience in the field. That's pretty substantial. And we're not leaving, guys. Well, we don't sign off until 9 o'clock or 8:50 on everyone else, on you guys. But if you have any questions, throw them out there, and we'll think about owls. Okay, that's a good question. So Laura wants to know, is there anything regarding owls from either a spiritual, shamanic perspective?
Well, owls has been, it's different cultures, but I always thought an owl was pretty good luck, and it just shows wisdom and somebody an animal that looks over you and for protection.
Yes, COT King. Yep. Actually, Jesus is. We're both Christians. Willie is on the phone, and we're both Christians. There's a lot of people. I'm Catholic. There's a lot of people say, "Oh, you can't be. Catholics are not Christians." That is so irresponsible. When people say that I don't know why people say that. It's so irresponsible, and I think it's vile that someone would say just because you're Catholic that you're not a Christian. That is preposterous, and it's intellectually dishonest. Because what is a Christian? A Christian is a person who accepts Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Well, I accept Jesus as my Messiah. He is my Lord and Savior. So that is a Christian, a person who behaves as a Christian. I devoted my entire life serving people for free. So to say that Catholics are not Christians, it is just irresponsible. And anyone who does that or says that should be ashamed of themselves, because it's disrespectful, it's vile, it's judgmental, and it has no room here on this platform. And quite honestly, I think at any platform. So it's just really irresponsible to say that. Do you think, how would you say if people, they ask me all the time, they want to go out and they want to paranormal investigate? Willie, can you tell people from your perspective the dangers of going out and paranormal investigating?
James, again, people watch TV, and they say, well, I can go out and get a camera and a tape recorder, and I'm going to go out, go ghost hunting. They can't do that. They have to be put with a team or know somebody that's been out. Hang on.
Willie, hang on. COT King, I know that was not addressed to you. It was people coming in saying Catholics are not Christian. We've been slammed with that all night long. So that was not addressed to you. That was addressed to people continuing saying that Catholics are not Christian. So that's what I was addressing to. But that was, no, you're fine. All right, I'm sorry, Willie.
I've told people that wants to be paranormal investigators, they need to go and find a professional group to get in with and get trained. I've had people that's come to me and for some training and how to do spirit, how to feel spirit and stuff like that. And I've actually had people come to me and say, well, we're going to go out and do an exorcism, and we want you to tell us how to do it. So I'm not going to do it. And you can't do that. You can't go out and challenge spirits like that. Well, they'll go out and they'll do that, and then they'll call me and say, can you come and help me? They've actually asked me, jump in the car, come and help them, because they riled up something out there that they shouldn't have done. I said, I'm not going to do it, because I told you as your counsel not to do this, and you went out and do it, and I'm not going to do it. And I've actually had people, that's had these phony groups or trying to get a group up that, has actually got told me to my face, it's your fault that we did, we got done, this happened to us. I said, no, it ain't. I told you not to do it, and you did it, so I'm not going to do it. That's how it's called tough love. But when I was taking my shamanic training, and my teacher told me not to go out and try anything, and I went out and did it anyway, then they would actually turn their back on me and say, you're on your own. So, you have to go out and find yourself somebody that's been out in the field and it can teach you the right way.
And you believe from your perspective that your psychic mediumship abilities come from God, because there's many people that say, oh, it's demonically influenced. And how would you like to respond to that?
James, when this started happening to me, everything started happening to me when I was 10 years old. Seeing and hearing spirits and UFO things and getting abducted at 10 and stuff like that. That was, I think I was giving off an energy that drew these things in. And I would tell my dad this, and he would tell me, don't tell anybody what you can do because people don't understand. And he actually, first time I knew about this passage was from my dad. He went into the Bible, 1 Corinthians 12, and taught me about spiritual gifts from God. And he said, this is from God. Don't let anybody tell you that you're bad. When you finally let people know what you can do, you tell them that God It's done this to you so you can help people. And that's how I learned.
And for those of you, again, who are just joining us, we've been talking to my friend, Willie Windwalker Gibson, who is a shaman and been in the paranormal field for, gosh, over 60 years now. And so if you want to contact Willie, you can contact him at crystalchief55 at AOL.com. Again, crystalchief55 at AOL.com. He's also on Facebook. But that's really the best way channeling. So someone's asking, what about, can you ask him what he thinks about paranormal groups channeling? So they're trying to channel, I guess, demons to try to communicate with these things, which seems very irresponsible to me and quite dangerous. What are your thoughts on that?
No. You have to have somebody with you that's a medium that's into that channeling. Don't try to get out and do this yourself, because I've had groups do that and say, I need help. And, we've opened up a portal, or something's followed us home. You need to do da-da-da. I tell them, don't do it. You're there to investigate. You're not there to do mediumship.
Very good. Well, again,
James, I've noticed that a lot of these groups now are taking mediums with them just for that reason.
And how would you, and we'll ask one more question, and then I'm going to stay on after Willie hangs up. I'm going to stay on and answer questions. So we're going until 8:50 p.m. Eastern. So we still got some time. If you are going to paranormal investigate, or God forbid, if you choose to work a demonic case, what advice would you give someone as far as protecting themselves?
If you're a paranormal group, I wouldn't work a demonic case. If you know you've got a demonic case, you have to contact clergy.
And if you don't, then you need to be fully aware that there are consequences for it, like Willie said. So,
yep.
Well, Willie, I want to thank you so much. You stayed with us for an hour and a half, actually. So I really do thank you for giving your time and your expertise. And we'll definitely have to get together and start that training and get on over there again.
Okay. I'm around.
Willie, thanks so much, buddy.
Good night.
All right, good night. All right, everybody. That was our friend Willie Windwalker Gibson. He's just a really class act. Just a class act guy. He and his wife are pretty amazing people. And they're pretty good folks. So I'll entertain some questions that I didn't even get to the cases because there are so many cases historically speaking. But when you have a conversation with Willie, because of his vast experience, you could have a 3-hour conversation and not even touch the surface. But because that is why there's so much experience. So as an exorcist for the church, I obviously bring in a different perspective than Willie does. Most of the time, we obviously agree, 99% of the time. But that we all have different ways. Some have different formats. I use the solemn rite of exorcism. We see the first form that was written actually in 1614. Well, yeah, I mean, some clergy can refuse an exorcism. For example, I can't tell you how many times people contact me and say, I need an exorcism now. Well, then I tell them I don't do them on command. Oh no, you can unmute him. He's good. He's fine. That was fair. So yeah, you can't. No, I think. Well, I know Judy, but he wants to hear from me. I understand. So, but look, here's the deal. When it comes to exorcisms, I don't. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's very pretty. Thank you. And there's. Oh, please, thank you. I don't do them on command. I just simply don't. And yeah, no, guys. Yeah, people are sending me a message on Messenger. No, our moderators are they're pretty amazing people. They really are. They're here and they work overtime. Let me tell you, overtime with the amount of hate. So let's say this: if someone says that they're possessed, so what do we do? First of all, I always ask them, well, how do you know you're possessed? That's the first question I'm going to ask. Or if someone contacts me and says that, their loved one is possessed, I'm going to say, well, how do you know that they're possessed? So because a lot of people will immediately just say, well, this person or that person is possessed. Well, how do you know? Well, they speak in this language. Well, do you know the language? No. Well, then how do you know that they're just speaking in gibberish? But one thing that I require, and I do not, this is non-negotiable. If someone is requesting an exorcism, they must. It is not optional. I've been speaking about this for 25 years. And I've been on radio and on television. I do not perform an exorcism without a psychological evaluation. Period. It's non-negotiable. And there's a reason for that. Because, and again, for 25 years, I've been teaching this. I know some people who do perform exorcisms on people without having a psychological evaluation, and I think that's irresponsible. Yeah, what Willie was talking about in emergency situations, like he has taken cases, there are certain circumstances. And the reason being because if someone has dissociative identity disorder and you perform an exorcism on that individual, you can create another identity. If a person is paranoid schizophrenic, you can put them in a manic state and feed into that psychosis. So you got to be very careful that you're not doing harm. Thank you. That's really important. So again, this is something that I require. It is non-negotiable. And then after the psychological evaluation has been completed, and if there's nothing there that is an issue with moving forward, that's an impediment, then we go into I bring a team, and the team comes in and they investigate. Let me make this very clear. For those of you who attack paranormal teams, knock it off. Knock it off. I get so sick and tired of laity attacking paranormal teams. It's funny that people attack paranormal teams, but you guys, the ones who attack paranormal teams, you're not answering the call at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4. You're not buying the $1,000 worth of equipment that you have to purchase in order to do an investigation. You're not doing that. See, if you're going to attack a paranormal team, let me do real talk here. This is real talk. Paranormal teams answer calls at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. They buy thousands of dollars worth of equipment. They gather all this equipment and they go to somebody's home whom they don't even know. And they don't owe these people anything. But yet they're willing to do this. They leave their family. They travel for hours upon hours to get to that family. Then they spend hours upon hours investigating the home, trying to debunk the activity. Then after all that is done, then they have to review hours upon hours of all the evidence. And then once they gather all that information, they present it to me. So if you're going to go and yap your mouth and attack paranormal teams, then I want you to answer the call at 2 o'clock in the morning. I want you to go out and spend thousands of dollars worth, because you're not going to do it. You'll just yap your mouth about them and speak ill of paranormal teams, but you're not doing this. It's so easy to be on the sideline to talk crap about paranormal teams who are busting their butts, helping families who are really, truly dealing with very serious activity in their home. That's real easy to do this. But when you open your pocketbook and you write a check out or a debit card or whatever it is to pay for thousands of dollars of worth of equipment, then all of a sudden this becomes this. Because then it becomes real. So paranormal teams who travel hours upon hours to people's homes. And not only that, but they're putting themselves in some pretty precarious situations. And they're still willing to do it. And they don't charge. But see, for the hater gators out there, that's still not good enough for you, is it? You're still going to yap. It's like a chihuahua. You just yap. You offer the trolls who are constantly attacking paranormal teams, you offer nothing in regards to helping people who are truly dealing with demonic issues. Nothing. As a matter of fact, you add to the demonic activity. Paranormal teams, in my opinion, they are the celebrities in the paranormal field. They are the ones that should be applauded, not insulted, not judged or condemned. See, anybody can sit there and act like you're God Almighty and pass judgment. That's easy to do. But when the work comes in, the boots on the ground, and actually working the cases, the paranormal teams not only have to deal with putting themselves in precarious situations with dealing with a possible demonic issue, but then they have to deal with listening to these yappy trolls, constantly judging and condemning them. So that's real talk from an exorcist perspective. I rely on paranormal teams. Well, you shouldn't do that. Well, fine, then I'll rely on you. And then you go spend thousands of dollars. Oh, then all of a sudden, well, I can't do that. Oh, I see. I can't be everywhere. I haven't won the lottery yet. And I don't charge. And neither do the paranormal teams that I work with. So I rely on people who are in California or New York or Florida or Texas or wherever it is. And I contact the team and I say, I need your help with this case. Because I can't fly all the way down there and find out that there's nothing there. So they say, okay. They go, they investigate, they gather the information, they present it to me. That is a ministry. Because that helps me tremendously. I don't have a private plane. I can't just hop on one and just let's go. Because it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money to go to people's homes and help. And again, I'm not addressing one person. There's a lot of people think that I'm addressing you specifically. I'm not. This is a general statement. But that's the truth. So, and we have a few people like Judy Ann has helped tremendously. She's in the chat. She's one of my friends. Actually, I consider her more of a family member, but she's a moderator, and she has helped. I mean, you guys don't know, she's the unsung hero here. You guys don't know this. She has financed a substantial amount of cases that I've worked, and she's not independently wealthy. So she makes sacrifices. And for those of you who make any form of donations, you guys make sacrifices to help me to get to people's homes. That's how I do this. Everyone says, the yappers, oh, you should never charge. Well, don't tell me. And I've been preaching that for 25 years. I was preaching this when you were in diapers. I'm fully aware you don't charge. We don't charge. And while that is great, while that is nice and admirable, well wishes doesn't get me to someone's home. And it's expensive. Flying, getting a hotel room, getting a car, that's pricey. So this is why I rely heavily on paranormal teams so they can go out and investigate. And then if I have to do a fundraiser, I do a fundraiser. I know right now that I could charge $5,000 for an exorcism, and I could probably be independently wealthy. I could easily, no question at all, I could probably maybe generate between $200,000, maybe $300,000 a year. And some people that's not a lot of money to them. $200,000 is a heck of a lot of money to me. But if I could do it right now. If I started at this very moment, I have enough cases where I could easily generate $200,000. Easily. But we have a zero tolerance on working with people who charge. We just don't. At all. So I think many times, Trish, many times they're demonic. So people who do paranormal investigators that I work with, they're pretty amazing people. And they don't think everything is a demon, because it's not. And that's one thing that kind of bothers me. There's a lot of people that are giving their opinion. Okay, fine, but don't mislead people. I'm giving you an opinion based on the fact that I work cases, and that I've been doing this now for 25 years. So I'm not giving you an opinion based on inexperience. I'm giving you an opinion on the 33 exorcisms that I performed on people who were violently possessed, and the thousands of homes that I've blessed in 25 years. So I'm telling you now, Not everything is demonic, period. And there's a lot of people out there saying everything it is. It is not. It is not. And that is the truth. Yep. What's your question, Eduardo? Yeah, I'm trying to answer as many questions as I can, but I'm only one person. So, yeah, I was friends with Lorraine. Well, thank you, Renee. Yeah, I did not know Ed. So, Rich Valdez, he's a demonologist. So the demonologist is different than an exorcist. What would be a reason for a spirit to remain even though you command it to leave? Well, it continues to break down the intellect. Okay, so Eduardo is asking, what would be a reason for a spirit to remain even though you command it to leave? So guys, I'm answering a question, so I can't ask another question, so hang tight. When a person has a demonic attachment, the demon is attacking the person's intellect and will. So it's constantly attacking the person, scratching, biting, affecting the sleep patterns, affecting every life. I mean, just a barrage of attacks. That's breaking the person's will. You have no will to continue. You give up. At the same time, you have demonic, you have demonic obsession where it begins to attack the intellect. So it begins to interact with them, and you hear their voice. And it's trying to break down the intellect and will. When that happens, then the person goes into possession. That is a process. It's a violent process. And so the demonic has hold of that person, and it continues to attack their intellect and will. There's transient possession where the demonic will enter the body and leave at will. Anneliese Michel, the Exorcism of Emily Rose, she suffered from transient possession. But when the demonic left, it was still attacking her, leaving her at a vulnerable state so it can continue to enter and leave at will. So when you command the demon to leave, it doesn't want to. It wants to continue to desecrate the image of God, which our bodies, our vessels are created in the image of God. We are made in the image of God. So it wants to desecrate, as Paul says, the living temple of the Holy Spirit. And that's why it does not want to leave. It wants to continue to desecrate. So what we do during an exorcism is the intellect and will of the exorcist and the intellect and will of the demonic are at battle. One will win and one will lose. And that's the process of the solemn rite. Okay? Absolutely. Yeah, Michael. We do. Michael's asking, can't clergy invoke the archangel? Actually, we do. In the very beginning of the minor rite of exorcism and the solemn rite, we actually pray the litany of saints. So that is where we do that in the very beginning. Okay, so Faith, can mental illness be a demonic attack? I'm really irritated when I hear people, not you, but there are clergy members who have never worked a demonic case in their life are saying that mental illness is demonic. That is irresponsible. That is irresponsible. It's intellectually dishonest. And I think it's incredibly theologically dishonest. And it is so irresponsible because then what happens, and this is why, if a person who suffers from mental illness hears this, it could feed into that psychosis. And then the individual will use the excuse of the demonic and not get the help that they need. So I find it, that's an abomination when people, now can someone who has a mental illness become possessed? Well, certainly. But that is not possession. I even heard one clergy, and I use that term loosely, say that autism is a form of possession. Well, when someone says something like that, you know they have no training in this field. None. That is just, I think that is horrible. That is evil that anyone would say that. And that was a clergy member who said this. So yeah, I don't, So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of questions, guys. So if I answer one of your questions, you know, I'm doing the best I can. I can't, you know. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they do that. What, I don't know. So, but they're teaching now. They're teaching this, and that is an issue because when they do that, it makes people who think that, well, now I'm possessed by demons. And that is just wrong. That is just, it's yeah. Arrogant ignorance. That's right. That is right. You know, that, but I mean, when you say something like that, I used to be certified. I was a teacher, a certified teacher in special education. And I taught behavioral and learning disabled individuals, and it just makes me mad. So no. Yeah. Eschatology. Well, yeah. Yeah, the end of the last things. Well, we teach about the end times. So I teach about Revelation. Okay. Should he ask what? Is it? Yes. So possession itself is rare. I perform 33 exorcisms and I have 21,000 emails. So, yeah. Does it get crazier at 3? Oh, yeah, the Holy Trinity. Yeah, it's a mocking. They believe it's the witching hour. I have found that it with possession, it's more demonic activity at any time. But it's interesting though with the Gates of Hell Cemetery. And I did a presentation on that. Well, the argument is that Jesus. The theological argument is that Jesus died at 3 p.m. Thank you. And so 3 a.m. would be a mocking of the Trinity. That's what that's the argument. That's why you hear knockings of 3 again as a mocking of the Trinity. But the Gates of Hell Cemetery, I did a documentary on that on the Tube to the U, if you get my point. Can't say it because if you do, you get shadow man. But nonetheless, that is one place that changes at night. It's a different location at night. It's not the same. It's just the whole setting. Everything changes at night. So I did a documentary on that. So it can, Gypsy, it can. But people ask me, well, how do you know if it's mental illness versus actual possession? Well, very simple. First of all, a person who's mentally ill does not have the ability of prognostication or retrocognition. Prognostication is the ability to know the future. Retrocognition is the ability to know your sins. Demons cannot read your mind. They're not all knowing. The reason is demons will know your sins is because sins fall under what is called ordinary demonic activity. Yeah, actually, they do mock the Trinity, Mel. I'm an exorcist, but please don't do that. Yeah, I get really frustrated. Please don't come in and spew bullshit. We're not doing that here. That really makes me mad. When people come in here and start spouting out as if they're experts, you know, until you spend your entire life in demonology, don't come in here and spread misinformation. Yes, demons do mock the Holy Trinity. Again, I watched a YouTube video. You look like you're 21, you're 20 years old. I've been teaching demonology long before you were even alive. Nonetheless. Ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, just preposterous. A lot of there are people that will say that people who have mental illness is a form of possession, which is just stupid. Just stupid. But anyway, so retrocognition is the ability to know your sins, not because they can read your mind, because sins fall under what is called ordinary demonic activity. So because of a temptation to sin, that's why they know your sins, because it falls under ordinary demonic activity. I am sharp. So, yep. How do you keep cool with ignorant people? Because I first of all, I don't tolerate misinformation. I don't tolerate people coming in and spreading misinformation about, especially a topic like this, because it's very dangerous, because you're dealing with some really serious evil. So unless you know for 100% certain, keep your mouth quiet. Because for example, there were individuals there were people going on social media saying that that not all demons are evil, that you can call upon demons to help you. Well, that is absolute horse manure. That is a lie. And as a matter of fact, it was that type of crap that caused one case that I had to work with where a person listened to this idiot, and then they called upon demons by playing with Ouija boards, and all hell broke loose in their house. This is why it makes me mad, and it infuriates me, because I have to clean up the mess that these clowns perpetuate. And then I see people struggling, truly struggling with demonic activity, because people who watch a YouTube video and now all of a sudden they're experts in demonology telling people that they can call upon demons and your demons are going to be your best buddies. And then people who watch this, perhaps maybe in the teenage years, who are easily influenced, think, oh, well, that person said it, so it must be true. And then they do it, and then all hell breaks loose in their house, and then they have to call somebody like me who doesn't charge. But in my case, I'm so overloaded with cases, then they contact these other clowns that charge $10,000. All because somebody spread misinformation about this. So yeah, that bothers me. Because you never do evil. Ever. You fight evil. You don't feed into it. For those of you watching this or listening to this on podcasts, I'm going to have to wrap this up and say goodnight to you guys. I want to remind everybody, TikTok, I'm going to stay with you guys for a little bit longer, so just stay with us because we have to wrap it up on KGRADB Radio. So we have to wrap it up, and they have to go on to the next show. Remember, friends, so TikTok, stay with me. For those of you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Rumble and KGRADB Radio, I tell you all the time, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless, and don't let any troll tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night.